which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. So all of the folks that haven't been here in the past, let me just read for general information. The zoning board of adjustment has 5 voting members. Alternates may participate during the testimony phase and are permitted to ask questions. As each members of the public. Anyone wishing to speak during the portions of the hearing open to the public must be recognized by the chair and should state their name and address for the record. Once the testimony phase is closed, only the 5 voting members will participate in deliberations and decision-making process. If a regular member is either absent or recuses himself from the case, the chair will appoint alternates to serve in their place. Are there any recusals tonight?
I'll be recusing myself from case number whatever it is.
206. I mean, yeah, 225, 206, right?
Yes, sir.
That's your case.
My case, yeah.
Okay, sitting in on that one, let's see, we've got 2 guys, 3 alternates. Who sat on the last one? You did, so. Yeah. Okay, perfect. We're going to appoint Terry Fogg as another member sitting on this case. And so, clerk, where were these posted?
Notice of public hearing were posted in town offices, and the Memorial Library, Rich Post Office, not what you're saying.
Okay. I really want to speak to the camera that's pointing towards the board tonight and point out that it does say the town of Ridge, New Hampshire, which is really not sponsored by the town of Ridge, New Hampshire, nor is that camera any information thereof meant to be another record of our meeting. It's actually posted by Thomas Cooties. If anybody wants to know, even though that's kind of not posted, but full disclosure, it's not part of the zoning board. Okay, case number.
Joseph, I remind everyone to please sign in. There's a pad in the back.
Thank you. Case number 2025-06. A variance is requested from Article 9, Section A, the zoning ordinance for 29 Rand Road, Ridge, New Hampshire, map 2, lot 41-5A in the Business Light Industry District, owned by Philip R. and Judith H. Stenerson. Russ Thermos will relay the relative.
Article 9, Section A, uses permitted. Buildings may be erected, placed, altered, or used, and a lot may be used or occupied only for the following purposes and in accordance with the following provisions. 1. Any of the following uses subject to the site plan approval by the planning board. Any use permitted in the commercial district, Article 8. Automobile, truck sales, service establishment, garage, gasoline sales, service stations, sales of recreational trails, mobile homes, research laboratories, manufacturing, distribution, printing shops, and publication newspapers, bureaucracy. Matter, construction, clothing, furniture, machine shops, manufacturing, trucking, building materials, private, social clubs, or other commercial and industrial uses.
Thank you. Bill Stenerson, you're up.
So,
Your name and just
yeah, Phil Stenerson, 29 Rand Road, Ridge, New Hampshire. We bought the property in '85, and it is, as you can see from your bills that I gave you, it does not abut Route 202, but there's a lot in front of it. If you look at this here, here would be the easiest way to see it probably.
Okay.
We're talking this lot back here. And this is the residence here. Residents all around it, except for kitty corner across is a business. And then in the front here is there's nothing on this. There's a recycling, kind of a recycling thing in the front here. This is 202 over here. And basically, I did a rough draft of what I'm thinking for a subdivision. I tried to sell the property complete for on and off for about 4 years. And it's just, nobody wants to buy everything. People want to buy the house, people want to buy the shop, the barn, but people don't want to buy everything. So the logical thing to do is to split it up. But approximately, it was originally 800 feet back from 202. And some people say 600, but basically about split right here. Used to be, this was business and this was residential. And probably about 15 years ago, and did some changing around, they said, can we make it all one as opposed to having split zone? And I said, well, yeah, whatever, and it's kind of, okay, so you know, what's ahead? I'm trying to think ahead, what's going to be the head or whatever. And so they like the next, because they have a business on there. And yes, I also have a residence on there. So it's kind of that's what it is now. It is split use. And but anyway, so at that point, it was zoned all business light industry. And then the I guess one of my thoughts was that if you wanted this, if you needed to change it, the use on it, it would probably be easier to go from business light industry to residential than it would be go the other way. And whereas with the residents are all the way around it, other than the front, and that one kitty corner across there, it just seems to make sense to be able to use residential use. I can go through each line item if you want.
What's the board think on that? I mean,
It's
I've
pretty
read it.
straightforward.
Yeah, I've read it myself, unless somebody else wants more clarification. The point here, though, is there's 6 lots. You're proposing 6 lots, obviously.
Yeah, yeah.
And they're gonna fit within the town.
That's what this is the first step.
Right.
This is the first step.
Right.
But it all meets the 2-acre minimum.
Yeah.
I take my road.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would take my road to my house and to my barn now and upgrade that.
Yes. Anybody got any questions from the board? Any questions from anybody in the audience? Any butters? Nothing? Nothing heard. Do I have a motion?
If there are no objections from the others, and we've all read through this, I move that we approve.
I'll second that.
As written? I would like to add a condition to this, okay? The condition would be that it be only residential going forward. And the reason for that would be that business light industry right now, if we don't put a condition on it, and I checked with New Hampshire Municipal, we can't put conditions on this to change it to residential. My fear is, the town's fear would be that, or somebody would buy a lot. I'm suspecting that it could be business light industry as well. You could go either way at this point. And so you have an unsuspecting buyer who builds a beautiful home there, and you've got a guy changing tires with a tire business next door in 5 years or 10 years. Are you okay with putting a condition on it?
What I would, if you do that, what I prefer then would be to do it just on, well, this here's already,
Well, you can't change the plan. This is what we've already studied. This is
yeah. Because see, I would prefer not to have a restriction on these 2 lots. That's my problem. I just
So
basically.
you're asking the board to switch it to residential.
Well, I'm actually, George, asking the board to allow residential use in business light industry.
Yeah, and I personally have a problem in allowing residential in a business light industry because it can be mixed use at this point. And my big concern is what I just shared with you in the audience, that we grant this, then you have tire changing business or construction company or somebody that moves right next door to somebody. Unbeknownst to them that they could do this.
Yeah, no, but I mean, so to cover that, I mean, I guess we could do 2 things, restrict lots, proposed lots, 1, 2, 3, 4.
That's not what's in front of the board. I think,
I mean, what's in front of the board is I'm asking just for residential use. And if you want to restrict something, I would think you'd be able to restrict just than proposed lots.
What happens if you sell one lot to residential, and the one that could be either or, and the one next to it then goes with a tire changing business? Use that example.
Well, you have that right now. I can help.
Well, that's what we're trying to prevent.
Right, but what I'm saying is you have that right now all the way back here. So what it would in essence do, George, it would in essence would move that line further forward about back where it was before.
Yeah, I talked to the engineers about this, and I had questions with the attorney, and they said, the problem with that is just as I described. If you do that, you're opening yourself up to a problem with potential buyers. So if you want to come back to the board with an amended plan, we can put this on hold, reapply for it, and just use those, instead of 6 lots, you're talking about 4 lots, right?
So yeah, that's, again, it would basically put that line about back to where it used to be before.
Yeah,
So this right here would be allowed residential use, restricted. And this over here would be residential use on commercial land.
right. I think, I personally don't have a hard time converting something that can be either or, for the reason that it'll cause problems eventually, right? Eventually it will cause, right now, we have our own business, special exception.
Yeah.
But this is a lot different. This is allowing business-like industry mixed in with residential.
Again, I'm basically, if we do it that way, the way that I'm proposing, just to restrict these 4 lots,
Right.
it's basically back to what it was 15 years ago.
But that's not what's on the application.
Correct. But all I'm suggesting is that if you want to restrict, why can't you restrict these 4
Because
lots?
the condition exists on the 2 lots that you're talking about, the condition that I'm quite concerned about, which is someone can go in there and build a house and his next door neighbor puts in some sort of business-like industry.
But George, this right here, guy right here,
Yeah.
builds a house here. This guy right here builds an industry.
But we're not approving that. We're approving that 6.
But I'm
Subdivision.
saying we're not changing. There's still going to be a residential lot next to a business-side industry zone. You know, at some place, there's that line.
I agree,
I'm just
I agree.
suggesting that
I
line.
agree with that, but that's not what you're asking us to approve. You're asking us to approve the full thing, fully, without any conditions. And I'm saying, can we do this in a way that,
I have a question, because you talked to the New Hampshire law, and I did, so this is a question, not rhetorical. If we approve this and then someone wanted to put a light business, would they have to come to the board to give permission because it was approved as
I think
residential?
they only go to the planning board and they present their plan. And the problem is that this could happen 20 years from now.
I agree. No, I agree
Yeah.
totally. But again, I'm suggesting that you're going to have that somewhere.
But not on what we're talking about here. That's what we're trying to prevent. We're trying to prevent this on this particular subdivision proposal that you're asking us to approve for residential use. It's already zoned for business-like industry. Concern that, you know, well, that I have particularly is the fact that I should have more than once.
Yep.
What happens around it, I don't know. If you own a piece of property next to, you know, wherever that buffer is from business-like industry to residential, anywhere in town, the potential is the same for that.
Right, no,
We're just not
to give-
approving it.
Just to give you an example, this over here is residential.
Right.
Just got approved subdivision. This right here is business.
Well, why can't you come back with a plan that shows just that? You just want 3 lots, or whatever, 4 lots in this case, and this remains.
I could, but I mean, I don't see any reason why you couldn't put a restriction on proposed lots to do. I mean, it's,
I'm just one member. I'm just personally, we're not even deliberating. I'm just asking you a
Yeah.
question. Would you be willing to just, you know, convert them with the idea that they cannot go to business-like industry? We would grant it with conditions.
Yeah, and keep it in mind that this one right here is business-like industry. This over here.
Not in the development that you're proposing.
Right,
It's not inside the development that you're,
it is.
let me see.
So right now, this right here is my barn, this right here is my, I got a yard that I built, it's my yard. and a screen wall and stuff like that, which is an environment.
So you're proposing 1, 2, 3, 4 lots or 5 lots?
6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
So where your barn is, you're proposing to go residential.
Correct.
And right now you're saying you have a business running.
That's right. For 35 years.
Why would you do that?
Because it's part of this right here, it's part of this section.
And that's what I'm saying, why don't you delete that and then address it with the board later? But I think there's going to be a problem with the potential of being conflict with homes in there in the near future. Or in the future, I should say, once we build this.
Again, I mean, my business at this point ain't kind of going away.
Okay, then why would we approve it to be a residential lot?
Because I
You
can.
want to be grandfathered?
Because I can put it, yeah, be grandfathered.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Yeah.
And that's what it is right now. The house, my residential house is grandfathered. I mean, so you still have a grandfathered use going on.
Except for the current condition, it's only business light industry.
Right, and you have a grandfathered.
And you're trying to move it to residential. First, my concern is that we're going to have conflict between residential and business light industry in this particular proposal.
Yeah, yeah. No, I understand that. And again, I'm suggesting that there's a line there somewhere.
But it's true all over Ridge.
Exactly.
Right.
There's a line there. We're
We don't want to create a new one,
well, no, there'll always be a line there.
but we don't want to create one within one, with your proposal.
No, but I mean, I think that we're actually, if you look at it like this is substantially all residential here, I live in my business. This is substantially commercial, business light industry out here. And it would make sense to put a line there. I mean,
Yeah.
it's the
Wait, so
line.
are you suggesting you want to come back with a different proposal showing that line, or do you want us to deliberate and make a decision on the proposal that's in front of us?
Well, I guess, I don't know, what's the feeling of the board? I guess if you want to restrict it, to restrict to them 3 lots, I would have no issues with that. I'd rather get it done tonight. If I have to come back, I have to come back. And it's, you guys are the bosses.
Well, I don't like to look at it that way, honestly. But certainly, so let's, before we go into consider, tell us, will you please, which lots, are they numbered yet or not?
Yeah. So basically,
So which lots would you be okay with us putting a restriction on?
simplest way to put that is the 4 west lots.
These,
So it would be,
Feel kind of,
here's north, here's west, 4 west lots. So these here too, and both of them, on the line of that too, both of them would come in, them driveways, if you can see this, them driveways would tentatively be earlier on here in the road, where them two would cut off that way.
Well, I'm looking at, okay, I see 1, 2 lots on the west, and then your home, your barn.
Yeah.
So which ones do you say you're okay with restrictions on?
All 3 of them.
But that's where you currently have business.
Right, it's a big gap on it.
Well, we're not gaining anything. So so we're not, this one's out of the picture to begin with, quite frankly, it's irrelevant, right? It's your grandfather.
So I want to be able to keep that in the red. Instead of chopping it all up, I want to be able to keep that part of the red.
So why don't we go this one here, this one here, this one here, and this one here?
No, because we're kind of defeating the purpose. Because we're trying to keep the commercial toward 202 and the residents toward the.
Well, that's exactly what you're
toward the west.
proposing. So if some unsuspecting buyer builds on this lot here, whatever number that is, 23, let's just say that's 24. They come in here, you're saying, well, you want closer access to 202. Well, hold only reason why you would ask that is for business light industry.
No, I'm just saying, I'm just suggesting that if you restrict these three lots.
But we're not restricting them, because you just said your grandfather didn't.
But the other two ones.
Right,
The other three.
the other three.
Yeah, so, I mean, what Phil is saying, one is the grandfather didn't shop there, is those four western lots would be resi, but the two on the eastern side could still be used as business.
I think that's a good way of saying it. You're not really restricting business light industry in two of them, that's his grandfather.
Well, that one's grandfather.
Right,
But
but
if
for
you
me
look-
to expand it, George, I have to go back to the Board of Adjustment, the planning board to expand the
And
use.
George, if we look at the surrounding area, there's,
No, that's not, we're looking at this proposal, right? And this proposal has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lots, right?
Yeah.
Why can't we, okay, these two are already business light industry, right?
Well, this here, the whole thing is business light industry.
But if we, this one will have to, because that's where you run business.
It's grandfathered in.
But it's grandfathered in, so it's moot. So if we allow residential use,
I think we're saying the same thing.
George, if we allow residential use, I could put duplexes on. For rental.
And you can also put a tire changing facility there.
Well, but if it's restricted and residential restricted, I would have to go back to this board in order to put something like that.
I agree, so if we put a stipulation out there, that's what we'd have to do, right? To the board, we did it for all of them. Why not just, I can see the argument here for these two lots.
Yeah.
But all the others, 1, 2, 3, 4, why not allow a condition on those 4 and keep the others?
So if
Well,
somebody
we
bought
see-
it in, they could come into the board and get that restriction, is it gonna be on into line?
Right, to come back and ask for sure. Yeah, again, I don't want to restrict, I definitely want to ask for residential on them for over there. And if the only way you're going to do it is say residential only, that's up to the board.
But that's what you're asking for. You see, that's what you're asking for. The underlying law says that it's already business light industry. So in a sense, we're allowing you to do both,
Exactly.
right?
You know, exactly.
And
Yeah.
that's the concern, right? Is that you end up with dual use and lots of problems.
When a person buys that, doesn't the realtor inform?
He's supposed to, but they don't. And I asked on that, and they don't. So they don't do diligence. You see, when you're sitting there, you buy it, and you build a new home, or you buy a new home 10 years from now. Then you've got a guy next to you that decides to take his 3-bedroom ranch and turn it into a Dunkin' Donuts.
No, I totally get it. I absolutely totally get it.
Well, once you put that residential, that's zoned that way.
But
No, it's actually not. It's actually, I'm actually applying for a use, an additional use is what it actually is.
So you get to pick. It's a wild west. You can put whatever you want. And that's,
Residential use and commercial district is what I'm really applying for. But again, I guess that my first thing would be, I have no issues with restricting this side, these 4 lots.
well, of course you don't, because they grandfather.
Right.
There's nothing we can
No,
do.
no, this ain't gonna about
But
this.
you're pointing at these two.
These 4 over this way.
Why don't we say this lot, this lot, this lot, this lot, put restrictions on. You've got 6, we're saying, let's put restrictions on 4, because we realize that 2 are already.
Because at some future time, they could come and ask for it.
Right,
I
right.
mean, our restrictions are, you know,
But I mean,
broad eternity. And you're already grandfathered there, you're good.
Yeah,
I would rather see a restriction on this one.
there aren't any restrictions, your grandfather.
Exactly. But I also cannot put a residence on.
I don't know what's going on here, but what's proposed is either gonna get approved or disapproved. And you're doing 5, you're doing 6, and you want everything on all 6. And these two you already have. You can do business light industry now. And then you're asking also, I want to put a house in there eventually sometime. Maybe, I don't know. But it leads you to do both.
Yeah.
And we're saying, if you want to convert these to residential, you have to be able to move away from from the business light industry. And you really can't when you're running a business light industry on one of them already.
Well, sure, you just can't expand it. You continue with that use. You just can't expand it.
My point is that it's already business light industry.
Yeah,
Right.
and it was.
No taking out.
For 35 years.
So what's the simplest way to resolve this? Because we're just going in circles here. What's the simplest resolution?
I guess I would ask the board if they would be willing to restrict in 4 western lots the residential use only.
Knowing that the 2 out of the 4 are still both.
Right, just one of them. Why are you saying that two?
This one and this one are already business light industry.
The whole thing is business license, George.
You're saying with the stipulation that we don't restrict these 2 lots.
No, I'm saying restrict all the lots. Restrict 4 lots. Don't restrict these 2. That's what I'm suggesting.
Okay, but the problem with that is that regardless of what we restrict, you can still do business
But
light.
whatever the change in his grandfather.
I can still keep doing the business that I got there and expand it. Still keep doing it.
What you're asking for is the board's approval to put residential use in something that's already business light industry. It's already being used for business light.
Exactly. That's exactly what I'm asking.
That's,
It's been the same use that it's been.
so there comes the Dunkin' Donuts next to your 3-bedroom ranch, you know what I mean, in the future. So if you want,
No, George, that would not be possible, because if you put that restriction on there, okay, in order for me to expand that use, we'd have to come to the board of adjustment.
no, that's not correct. It's not, I talked to lawyers on it. The underlying zoning on this is business light industry. You can do that right now, okay? And even if we approve this for residential use, the underlying zoning is business light industry.
Understand?
Now, all of these, you can do either or.
Right.
So you're saying restricted on this one. We can't restrict it to only one because one is already being used for business light industry.
They don't matter. You can still restrict any further development.
I disagree with you. I respectfully disagree with you. If we want to change this to residential from business light industry, you pick which ones, and I think that your point at is that you want us to say, well, restrict it to this one. This one is already non-restricted. We cannot restrict it because it's already business light industry. And then now you're asking us to either do business light industry or residential, doesn't matter.
I'm actually not. I'm not disagreeing with you as far as on the next year.
Right.
I'm just suggesting that there would be strictly residential, other than the existing grandfathered business on the furthest west lot. And I'm suggesting that
Okay,
feasibly,
I got it.
these 2 lots could be mixed use.
Thank you. So you're against us putting restrictions on this, what
No?
you're saying? On this proposal that you have, which is 6 lots, you're not opposed to putting restrictions on it, residential only?
I'm not opposed to putting, I prefer to put restrictions
Only on 2.
just the 4 for the west lots.
With the knowledge that everybody here was told that there's no way we can prevent the existing business light industry that's already ongoing.
No, you can't dismantle it. I agree 100%,
Right.
but I would not be able to expand it.
Well, that's not what we're proposing, is not no expansion. What we're saying is your proposal is asking to convert from business light industry to residential. That's the gist of your application.
Well, that's the gist of it, but it's really not what I'm asking. I'm asking for residential use in a business light industry zone.
Right, you want either or. That's what you
Well,
said.
again,
If we approved it, that's what you would have. Without restrictions, that's what you would have.
right, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But with restrictions, if they wanted to do that, so I don't have a problem if we put the restrictions on. Then whoever bought that property, we have the right to come in.
Yeah.
And, you know,
But Phil's asking you to put restrictions on a lot that already cannot be restricted because it's grandfathered. So you can put a house there, or you can
Right,
put a
so,
business
but
like.
that's not the only one he's asking about. It's not, what you're asking isn't strictly grandfather, all of it is. So, no,
No, it's just, right now, I have a,
right.
when my equipment is stored here, basement of the barn, where's my equipment? That's what I have right
We're trying to prevent the either or scenario. Right, and you're saying, well, give me business, give me residential here, well, we can't remove the either or on that.
See, I'm looking at it, just eliminate what's grandfathered, because we can't touch it, it's done.
Well, then
Here.
that's not what the application is asking for. Now we're giving them either or, and we're trying to restrict the either or. Right, it has to be residential only. Really, what this application should have been was for 4 lots. These 4 lots converted from business light industry to residential.
But you can't, you can't change the zoning, you can only
Yeah, we
allow.
can, no, we can put restrictions on changes, no, we can.
I,
That's, I've been through it, there's RSA 67433 that talks about all the details, and it's very clear by New Hampshire municipal that we can't, a change in a district, okay, would require a town vote. But a change for a particular lot, okay, if you want to move it from business light industry to residential, you can do that. You can say, hey, you can do a residential here, but if you want to prevent both residential and business light industry, you can change that legally.
so you could change it to gateway district.
No, we can't change the district, the underlying district, we can't have restrictions on what you're applying for to be residential only. Prevent the McDonald's and Burger King.
Yeah. The logic of it being in it is whatever, but no, I mean, I would probably, if that's the only way that the board, I mean, I guess it's.
Well, we have to go into deliberation, I'm just, and that's my opinion, I did the homework on it, it was very clear. The 3 different emails and discussions back and forth, just to make triple sure. And they were saying that we're not changing the underlying zoning district, we're adding conditions to what's already there, because you're asking for residential. If you don't want to do both, put conditions on it.
So we're doing condition, not regulation, because it says the condition should run with the land and be binding on all subsequent owners.
Right, right, and that's the concern,
Right.
is that, okay, 3-bedroom cage, it's beautiful, but I'm sorry, I have the cage, I'm going to convert it to a McDonald's. Because I can.
Yeah, and again, I understand that, and that's why my suggestion is to restrict them for.
But that's not what's in front of the board, that's not your application. So if you did one here, let's make sure that, at least I'm being clear, if you did one on a lot that's already business light industry, it's hard for the board to put restrictions on it. Right, it's already grandfathered. It's impossible, actually, to do.
Because that's what the lawyer said here.
Right.
It's
We're talking about future lots.
it's grandfathered, but I mean, every one of them are future lots. It's one big lot, so.
We can't put restrictions on a lot for residential only when there's already a business.
So can you restrict it as future, no future resident?
Not that I know of. I mean, that's really not even what's in front of us. I would suggest, honestly, just pulling this back and then redoing this and eliminating these 2 lots from it. And then put the 4, or if you want to do that tonight, if you eliminated those 2, put the other 4, was it 4 lots? Let me see. These 2 gone, 1, 2, 3, 4 lots. From my perspective, I can see a way to get there. You want both, that's the problem.
I want to be able to put a residence on this lot.
Right now, right, and then what that does is the board approves you to do whatever you want. Residential or business light industry,
But again, it would restrict it to the use that's there.
which is either or.
No,
The word either or.
It would allow you to put a house on it, but it would restrict the business light industry to what's there existing.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. No, I don't believe that. Well, you've got res ag, as long as you meet the criteria, in business light industry. The CBA has no say as to what you build there and how big it is and what you're doing. It's the planning.
Well, no, but if you restrict it, any more than, every bit of it, George, right now is business items.
It is, it is, it is. We're trying to prevent either or. We can't do that on something that's already granted. It's already built, it's already being used as a business.
So right now, these right here, two are either or.
Well, they all are.
They're both.
Well, so this is not business like, this is not residential.
This is residential and this right here is business use right now.
So you have a residential, your home, on a business light industry zoned lot.
Correct.
So it's either or to be approved.
George, you said we're allowed to put restrictions of whatever we want.
Not whatever, but we can, if he wants, if his proposal, is a Bill's proposal, is to allow residential in a business light industry. Concern is the future use can be either or, whatever.
My question is, are we allowed to put any restrictions that we want?
Yes, basically.
So if that's the case,
Well, condition, we call them conditions, right?
That's
Right.
avoidable.
Right.
so if that's the case, we're allowed to do that. I think you guys are just not,
Well,
I don't know.
remember the word either or. We're trying to prevent either or. You can either build a house if you want, or you can put a McDonald's. You've got both now, by the vote tonight in the order, we put no conditions on it. We can't put a condition of no business if he's already got a business site.
I understand what you're saying. I go to McDonald's and Burger King, and I like to get tires. But if we're allowed to put restrictions, I think what Phil's saying is pretty simple. We put a restriction that there's on those 4 lots that you're in agreement on, that there's no future business.
But it's impossible to do that on a lot that already has a business on it, and it's grandfathered.
But we don't have to worry about that one, because it's out of the picture, it's blue, it's grandfathered, done.
I think if you worded that no new or whatever, Marcia's an English teacher, she'll know how to do that.
I'm not-
It seems to me like it's possible, but I'm just one person.
I know, and no, you're one of 5, okay, but the thing is that Phil is suggesting that, well, yeah, okay, I can do that, let's do it on the lot that's already used for business light industry. Well, that's the problem, because no matter what we do, it's either or now. We're allowing him to put a home on, okay, and it's stuff that I think we could probably get into deliberation on. Unless you've got other things you want to add, or anybody else has any, I make a motion that we go into deliberation.
I don't think we're ready to, because I think there are too
Okay,
many loose
okay.
ends.
But we're deliberating basically is what we're doing, most
Well-
of the, yeah.
What do you see the possibility of clarifying in a new variance proposal and bring it in again? When we have, you've heard the concerns, and bring in a new one ready to roll.
Well, I guess that the other question is that if that's what I have to do, that's what I have to do. It's, you know, you guys think more. If you want to just put a restriction on the whole subdivision, that it's residential only, and then if something changes, and, you know, that might be a very valid way to do it with the two. My concern is that them 2 western lots or eastern lots. But at the same time, if somebody wants to do something, they can come in with a low-key, park over the equipment over there, stand over the bank.
McDonald's, if they wanted to, and then it goes through a whole different variance process.
But you don't say,
Cut out these-
you keep going out of McDonald's, but then somebody might want to basically have more than one truck. Which right now you can't, but you can come in for a variance and ask.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So I guess the bottom line is, as written, would I be amenable to the, like these big words that are not used?
condition.
B&A.
The condition.
I think that's the best way to go, Phil, because you've already got a business there. We're not cutting that out, right? Okay? Fair enough. We have a motion to go into deliberation.
Hold on, just want to clarify. So you're okay with, instead of breaking it up, that the whole thing goes residential?
Because I don't want to, and I agree.
No, I just want to make sure that goes clear.
And that's what we're voting.
Yeah.
Is that what the motion?
That's
was?
what's in front of us.
Right.
So basically what it is that the motion, the request is going to residential use, and you're going to just restrict it to residential use.
We're not cutting you out of your current business.
Yeah,
Great.
yeah.
Okay? Do we have a motion to move into deliberation? Do we have a second? All in favor? Aye. Thank you. I think that was a worthwhile exercise. So, I mean, basically, do I have a motion to approve the application as written with the conditions here?
That's so moved.
The conditions are, the variance is granted solely to permit residential use on the subject property. No commercial, light industrial, or other non-resident uses otherwise permitted. Business light industry, BLI, district shall be allowed on any of the lots created pursuant to this variance. Conditions shall run with the land and shall be binding upon the applicant, all subsequent owners and successors of interest, unless modified or rescinded by the zoning board of adjustment through subsequent application and rehearing accordance with RSA 674. Okay? Approved? That's my motion.
So,
We have a second.
I made a motion, you need a second.
I'll second. All in favor? No, we're in deliberation now. We're in deliberation. That's fair, we did that there. Okay, and that was the condition, you know. So that's my motion, you second it, all in favor?
It was my motion for the purpose of the minutes, and you seconded it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, 5-0, right? Sounds good.
There we go.
And Amanda, here's the thing, I think that's gonna give you,
I wish you would put something there about grandfather existing, but
but
that
that's,
kind of goes without saying.
that goes without saying. That goes without saying. And if they wanna change it later, they just come back to the board, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I wanna say easy peasy, but that really wasn't. Let's move on here. Okay, case number 2025-07, special exception is requested from Article 2 of the ADU ordinance for 106 LaCanche Drive, Range, New Hampshire, map 17, lot 16 in the residential district owned by Rodney Sutler. Marty, are you prepared to read this or not?
Not quite.
Does somebody else want to pick it up? They got their book ready? Ross, can you take that? ADU or, I think you just need to read the first. There's a lengthy thing, so we'll just read the first paragraph. I'm sorry to drag you guys through all of this with the heat.
Accessory dwelling, what is it? What is that?
list.
I know, Article 2.
Yeah, Article 2.
Anybody else got, I'm up to read.
Special exceptions.
My ordinance is outdated, so.
Yeah.
So I actually have 21, they just made it change last year.
So nobody has a name,
I
they
don't
can
think- I don't know.
read the last one. We can't do that. We can't do that.
I have it here.
Sure. And isn't that, let's see, hang on a second. Do we have the application? And is it attached to that? Yeah. I don't see it.
I don't think that's required to be attached, you just has to mention it,
Right,
because I reviewed this, and you don't have to attach.
right, it's not.
That would be great.
Marcia will read it from your phone if you don't mind. Anybody looking for legal?
Am I reading
That's just a reminder to the board
that 12?
that we need to update our three reminder. I know someone signed stuff.
Okay, where,
Page 103.
Article two,
Article 2, Section 2.
section, I'm sorry.
It is
Article three, section A through L.
Yeah, Article 3, Section
Oh, it's on that's section 3, A through L, my goodness, okay. ADU shall be secondary and accessory to a single-family dwelling. Granting a special exception, the zoning board and the must find that the ADU is developed in a manner which does not alter the character or appearance or of the principal dwelling. Only one ADU shall be allowed per principal dwelling or lot. An ADU shall be permitted only for a principal dwelling in which the owner of record of the property will personally reside in either the principal dwelling unit or the ADU. For attached ADUs, any necessary additional entrances or exits shall be located to the side, rear of the building whenever possible. An ADU shall not be considered to be an additional dwelling unit for the purpose of determining minimum lot size. 2 means of egress from the ADU shall be provided. Gross living area in an ADU shall not be less than 300 square feet or shall not be greater than 750 square feet for the principal dwelling units. Any building for permit for an ADU must be approved and issued prior to its construction. An ADU shall have an interconnected fire alarm system and shall meet all of life safety and building codes. Adequate off-street parking shall be provided to serve the combined needs of the principal dwelling and the ADU. Minimum of 1 parking space per unit. Adequate provision must exist or be made for motor vehicle ingress or egress, turning of vehicles within the site. The last one, the existing or proposed septic system must be certified by a licensed septic designer or engineer as adequate to support the ADU and principal dwelling unit in accordance with the New Hampshire RC.
Thank you.
very much.
And just for the record, the part that was changed that we don't have, that we all understand is that it has to be owner occupied. That was changed recently, I believe in March, and that's why we don't have that updated page. We really should, so I apologize for that. So, okay, let's see. With that said, do we have someone here representing this case, 2059? Your name?
Troy Rich, Garden Engineering, behalf of Ron Temple.
Okay. And we have a release from you on this?
Say you are representing.
I don't see it.
I didn't see one.
No.
You just like. But you
Yeah, you do. The owner representative that he releases to speak on his behalf, which we have a separate portion that needs to be.
I did not see that before.
Yeah, we just had that,
Yeah.
I think it's illegal. I don't know, let's support that. I'll go with the board.
I'm comfortable with certification that you have
On this one,
on this one.
on this one, I'll allow it. I spoke to Ronnie yesterday.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can see that on the checklist though.
Phil,
I skipped that.
Yeah,
Marty? Okay, so 5-0. Okay, we'll talk about that.
Oh, for that.
Typically, we have those attached, but it's illegal.
I guess in this sense, we have to put added as the applicant.
It's also, it's also a reminder that our board probably should be adding that.
Okay.
I think it does, actually, the application. Go ahead, speak and we'll.
Anyway, so yeah, we had to do a shoreline for this, so this is the whole plan for the shoreline.
By the way, can I just interrupt you one second?
Sorry, yeah.
In this application, the last page, the representative. That would be whoever is speaking for the sign in this area.
Yeah.
Well, this is your application. Okay, no, it's not, I don't understand correct. This is instead of an application,
Yeah.
which was for variance. Yeah, it's not on our special, except we'll fix that, okay?
Yeah.
So we have a hole in that, we need to fix
It's an easy thing to remedy, not your
that.
fault.
Yep, okay, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Okay, so. So this, we did need to do a shoreline application, so this was the plan for the shoreline. So there's an existing 4-bedroom dwelling here. It's proposing an ADU in this area of the lot, along with a new septic system, to accommodate the flows. The septic system currently, just as well, this whole shorthand is for all of this work. The proposed ADU disturbance, septic system disturbance, the new living lines. And we have the septic plan here. It hasn't been approved by the state yet, waiting for the shoreline to go through before they see it, because they won't, this septic won't get approved without the shoreline. I'm awaiting second round of comments on that. I have a couple topics plans to you guys to look at.
And this is for 2-bedroom, ADU.
2-bedroom ADU, existing 4-bedroom dwelling.
I believe this is the Joe Hill property. It used to be on
I
our
believe
board.
that was the old,
Yeah, Joe was on the board for many, many years.
Yeah.
Then yeah, we're proposing 910 square feet. Says in regulations, 710 maximum or 33%.
It's gonna be over.
Yeah.
Yeah, he lives there currently.
I think that's what I
Hang on one second. Wait, hang on one second. Are you have a number? Can you put that down for a second? Let me try to speak to the audience. Please, let him do his job and let him represent his client, and I'll get to you, and you can speak as long as you want, okay? And I'll make sure that happens. Let's let him answer some questions and things like that, right?
I'll set that up on the chair maybe.
He's over this spot.
Yeah. Anybody have any questions on the board?
Did you act, I know that property, that Tennessee.
Very close.
Yeah. And would you acclimate me to where it is?
The road,
Yeah.
no chance, right?
Yeah, and he's up here.
And his driveway is there.
Right here. We got the Y going to the neighbor also.
Okay.
Right here comes in, goes to the neighbor's house. This comes in, this is their existing. Pavement in here.
You folks are welcome to step up if you want to look at this.
Okay.
You have it, okay. All
I
right.
have a good spot to show everybody.
Yeah.
Where is the pool? Oh,
First there.
it's over there. Oh,
Yeah, you have the
Got
current existing driveway here, third here. Pavement here, curving, yeah, this one.
I have a question. Does this driveway go across this lot, or does it go across the neighbor's?
It wide both here, so you get,
It's shared.
it's a shared driveway, you get the neighbors going this way. Those folks.
And there's enough setbacks here to build another piece of property. I used to live in this house, so I know the property pretty well. That's my question.
Right.
I lived there, we really want to build it.
Yeah, the building setback.
So the dotted line is a setback line, yeah, that way. Why isn't the setback line at an angle to the building that you're proposing?
What do you?
Well, only if it's a setback, you would have parallel to this building a setback, right?
But that's the building setback from the property.
Oh, okay, and what about the setback? Okay, I see, I see. I got it, yeah, I got it. Thank you.
Arrow show the distance.
Yeah, I see.
Yeah. Years.
Yeah, I assume that this was the boundary limits. Yeah,
Okay, yeah, this is the driveway here, so those are setbacks from. the boundary line.
Okay.
That's the building.
Okay, does anybody else on the board have any other questions? Nothing current? It's not a long pause. We want to keep moving. Hang on a second, folks.
That's where it does go down along that road.
Hang on one second, okay? Can we just wait till we make sure the board doesn't have any more questions of the person presenting? Are there any more questions before we move on?
I'm looking at the plan, George.
Okay, so anybody?
That's probably.
Anybody from the audience have any questions? Well, Phil is looking.
Sure, John Strauss, 118.
Well, just for the record, so,
Hi, John Strauss, 118 Chance
and
Drive.
you're signed in too, right?
Yes. Just curious questions. How far away is the Supples well to the, and their septic?
Their septic system is approximately right here. In this right corner. And I believe they well would be on the lot. Setbacks from that septic system there. This is the existing one, so.
And those would be planning questions, anyway, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and state, I mean,
I
state.
mean, the way that a special exception works is that we have to grant it if they meet all of the criteria.
Yeah, this is just for the ADU.
Yeah.
Septic. We just wanted to show them.
What do you know about their actual residency in this location?
From what I understand, they live there.
You know,
That's
100%.
100%.
100%.
It's an
They
area.
bought.
TJ Fluharty and Chance Drive, it's an active and it's listed, rental. It always has been rental since the water.
So this would be to expand, your understanding is as a butters, that it would be to expand the Airbnb business.
Correct.
Yeah,
And how can we,
So
how can you not prevent that?
Well, we can prevent it because ADU has to be owner, it's for owner occupied.
That was one of the requirements.
Right. So it's not like.
We've never seen anything.
Never.
True.
I've never met them.
They're there.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, is that the one who's in
So
the
they're-
trailer
so
right now?
they're-
Currently, right
You
now.
know, they're there for the meeting.
I don't know
So
how.
then-
I don't know how long he's there. He does live there.
That's not-
So he's currently down in Florida, finishing school. With kids.
So
You guys live there?
Two things you said is there right now.
So he is there right now.
you see, I think from the board's perspective, it's difficult for us to, I mean, it's kind of hearsay, right, that he doesn't live there.
Yeah.
Sounds like a business.
Well,
This is
We all know, we all know.
He bought it.
Okay, and then you have proof that he's,
Well, yeah, I can tell you the text and phone numbers, what I called to say.
no, but I mean, proof that it's up for rent.
Okay.
More than
Oh, yeah.
6 months and 1 day is residency, right? So is it up for rent more than 6 months out of the year?
I don't know, they.
Talk amongst
Yeah,
yourself.
that's kind of like, the other stuff is hearsay, you know, and well, anyhow, okay, anybody else have any other questions? Anybody from the audience?
Is
Your name, please, just.
Carl Kruger, Joggers Cove Road. Are they complying with the short-term rental requirements of the town, or they have to get approval? Which is new this year.
if it was, then I would assume they would need requirements, yes.
But they're not proposing to rent this, they're proposing to live in it, right?
And as far as I'm concerned, they're proposing an ADU to live.
But the abutters are saying that isn't the case.
Well, I don't necessarily, the regulation says the owner has to currently occupy. The statement from the owner that I heard that you have also mentioned is that they've been down in Florida while the kids in school, right?
That's what happens.
Florida school year is about 9 months. So that kind of blows a hole in occupancy thing where it's not, where you can't look at this as a future. They're going to, there is, are they living there now? Which is what that regulation
It
says.
says current.
Current. And that word is what blocks it out. So if they're in school in Florida for 9 months out of the year, that kind of tips it to the, no, you're not actually living here full time.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if he's down there on full time with them.
Well, that, but that, absent any other information, you only have to go, you can only go off what this says, which says current occupation. And if they're down there for the school year, as you would know, that's more than 6 months out of the year, which then means they can't necessarily say that they.
May I follow up on a comment that was made by one of the abutters? When you call the number, is it a residential number or are you getting a business number? Saying this is such and such Airbnb.
No, it's not the neighbors, when I contacted the wife, noise, the email and calls.
Well, this is also, we might bring this up at this point, right? You've all submitted letters to the board to be read into the record, if I'm not
The
mistaken.
abutter, directive on
Directive on it.
Okay, so we have that letter. That should go into the record too.
In the letter of grace, the statement concerned about occupancy.
And the parties.
Well, there's nothing in the regulation talks about noise. There is something in the regulation about occupancy.
Excessive noise.
Noise.
Right,
That's one
excessive
of our
noise. It does
criteria.
say.
It's still.
You put some, make a statement like that, you gotta back it up. There is a thing about noise.
I
Very clear.
yeah.
So, and I know where you're at 119,
118.
118 and
right next door to me, right next to my 90.
Brown,
No, 90. sorry.
Yes, she's in the ground.
the blue VWs.
Yes.
Yes. You're the walking the job.
Every morning.
Just like,
Have any of you had, just looking at it, one of the things that we talked about, and I haven't read all of your letters objecting, I presume. Have any of you had any occasion to talk to a professional in terms of what the use of the property of the ADU does to your value? Any professional?
No, a little snarky, but I was saying, we'd like a nice bit of for a restaurant and a bar in our house, because it could go really well. It's kind of-
So in your opinion, have you heard the noise?
Oh, yeah, we have a lot of problems with some.
Where we are, we get to listen to the neighbors.
You have to understand that, I mean, you can rent your house out for a couple of days if you want to, right? And there's gonna be people with fireworks and all that.
for our, until we were encouraged just for a couple of summers, because we're saving up some money to take it down and build the house that we're in right now. So I get it, but this has been 24/7. This is not just.
And so for how long a period of time have you, as abutters or nearby neighbors, had your sound comfort interrupted? For how long? Are we talking all winter? Are we talking just summer? Are we talking a year? I'm trying to
It's
think how long
year-round,
it
obviously,
did.
here.
Marty's been.
Or it's in the summertime. Yeah, and I don't think it's rented out as much.
Marty, go
It is
ahead.
better than what-
It is.
Russ. I've got this, okay? I got this.
George, we're on the noise issue. Can you tell me which one of these that's
No, that's a good question, Marty. Let's go back to that. So,
Criteria 1 on our special exception. Use will not create excessive traffic,
Noise.
noise, congestion, or odor.
Just both of them. Traffic and.
Thank you,
Walk
Bob.
by the cleaning crew waiting to get in.
Yeah.
Clean the house so that they can get a clean time for the next job.
My question though, and this is anecdotal evidence, obviously, we can accept anecdotal. Would you say that the house is rented, or that they don't live there more than 6 months out of the year?
Yes.
Yes, I'd be shocked.
And just based on what the applicant told me directly yesterday, that they've done there for the kids' school year. And just a quick Google says Florida school year is 9 months.
And it's funny because I did see their listing of, 2 weeks ago, and now it's pulled
I,
down.
I want you to know, I looked for it 2 days ago.
Pulled down.
Oh, and we're full, we would all.
That's a
full of that.
smart change. You're gonna, you're asking.
Well, you're unpunctured, but what I'm hearing from people who live nearby is that it's being used more than 6 months out of the year. Phil, do you have your hand up? No?
Both of them, I'm praying.
Thank you, sir. We did all we can do.
Anybody else have any questions before we go into deliberation? Anybody from the board, anybody from the audience? Nothing heard? Motion? Go ahead.
Just
One more? What's your name?
TJ Blue Heart United with Train Drive. It's just that, I read through that, while talking about changing the character, everything in the area. The area's changed already because of
Yeah.
what's happened there.
With this one house?
Well, yes, that house specifically.
To change the demographics, or are there primarily
People.
I can actually attest to that because I live on directly down Oceans, and there is a significant amount of traffic into the seasonal months.
Yeah, I've been there 70 years.
No, I think they'll let it show up.
It
It has changed substantially, but this has put a real mess into the neighborhood.
So let me get
You
this
know, we all
straight.
have private residential homes, we all have expensive homes.
Yeah.
And they have traffic, they have parties, they have.
All from this one house.
Yes, well,
I have to say, we live on the end.
First, one,
Trish Jobs, we live at the end of the road. Okay, so I go past the house every day or walk by it or whatever. And I said to my friend the other day, I said, you know, I've never been concerned about living on the dead end road in New Hampshire until now, because I don't know who's in that house. When I know all my neighbors, I can go to any of their in a flash, but I don't know who they are. And if he's on a business trip and I'm by myself, I have to tell you, I think twice. And I have to take my dog out too.
Thank
So I'm out at midnight.
Anybody else have anything? Anybody from the board? Ross, you have something more to say?
Now, the only thing I'll say is that that road specifically as well, and speaking to the excessive traffic quotient, that is a narrow road, more or less single can get
Yeah, I
there.
think most people, understand that. Down to Joe's place with that, I did when Joe was. But, okay, we have a motion to,
I move we go into deliberative.
I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, everybody. I don't know, hey, listen, I'm open to anything from anybody. Who wants to open this up?
Well, I think the rest of that issue has to be settled.
Oh, hang on a second right now. So the five, for the record, the five voting members in the deliberative session, I don't think you are. Myself, Martha, Ross, Phil, and Martin. Okay, but thank you. This will be the five of us, just for the record too.
It says that it has to be occupied. I can't get past that.
We've heard anecdotal evidence that they're not living there
Well, I've also
for
heard,
more than 6 months, I think.
I've also heard direct evidence from them. So,
And I think,
backing up what the audience told and the person told us.
From, why would the applicant say he doesn't live there 6 months out of the year?
He volunteered the information.
Okay,
I think we can quickly go through the criteria
okay.
on here. I think that's the easiest thing to do because
And
it's going to be
then,
self-evident.
so just so you know, if any one of these fail, the application fails. Okay? And, so they all have to pass.
Yeah.
So, criteria number one, the use will not create excessive traffic congestion, noise, or the accessory dwelling unit is to be a two-bedroom unit, which will not create excessive congestion, noise, or odors.
It sounds like it already has.
It has.
I think, yeah. I mean, and we have multiple people, not, so it's not limited with one person, it is.
Or
neighbor.
deliberation, we got it
Yeah.
just amongst them.
It's a neighbor, sorry, neighbors plural.
In the current situation.
Yeah.
And of course, adding an ADU would only make it maybe worse.
So it would create excessive traffic congestion. Noise, and odors.
Why? Because
Testimony.
testimony from the other.
And
So who wants to make that motion?
Well, except that again, I think we gotta look at it. This is talking about the unit itself. And are we making lines on what's used?
Well, see, the problem we don't have, Phil, is that it now has to be owner occupied. And there's nothing in this four criteria that we have here that suggests that it's, there isn't a question here, is this owner occupied? I think this needs to be changed as well. With the new zoning ordinance, certainly we could knock it out of the park right there.
Yeah.
But it's not owner occupied.
well, the other thing that goes along with, and I totally agree, I think your point's well taken. This says, the ADU will not, indicating in the future. Well, in the present, even before the ADU is there, it's creating
I
noise
think-
and traffic. So I don't think
I
there's any,
think that regulation kind of speaks to that. So why is it creating that? It's because it's not.
well, it doesn't even matter, it doesn't ask us that.
I know, I'm saying we could.
So if you take past as prologue to the future, it will create more noise. It already is,
This will add to it. This
absolutely.
will add to it. Let's just go with that, right?
Okay.
And Marty, you gotta speak up. I can barely see your hand out. Go ahead.
On the flip side of it, I don't live on the lake, but I've worked on the Chance Drive multiple times, and summertime on the lake is full of festivity, excitement, noise, vehicles, people, boats going up and down the lake. So
Well,
that's just
let's use your analogy. Let's walk down the road with that for a moment. Okay? Of course, that's the case with people who own the house. They're gonna have festivities, they're gonna have fireworks. And now they're looking for a 2-bedroom home. And if they meet all the criteria, yeah, we're okay. The 2-bedroom home, in this case, if you don't live there, can only be assumed that it's gonna add to it, in my opinion. You know, you're not living there, Marty, I'm just saying.
Right.
You're looking to build a 2-bedroom home for what? Well, it strikes me as though that this is being rented more than 6 months out of the year, more than that. And the ADU, in my opinion, seems to be missing the point. One, it's not owner occupied, and it's going to create other existing noise.
I think we need to stick legally with what we've got
I
here.
agree.
And
And
the ADU's occupation may or may not, you know, and we need to investigate, I totally agree with that. But even aside
I
from that,
completely agree.
this purposely says, you know, that the use will not create excessive traffic congestion. We have public testimony that it will, and it does now.
Quite frankly, at this point in the game, I'm just thinking aloud. At this point in the game, for this whole application is no, because it's not owner occupied. And that's a stipulation right up front, that it must be owner occupied in order to apply for an ADU.
But
So,
we need verification of that. Aside from that, and aside from that,
I think
based
we
on
ended- we
this,
ended with-
it's over because you have to follow all the criteria. They fail on number one. Oh, well, let's take a vote. Right.
But see, I think this, I'm gonna give you another aspect. Will that 2-bedroom unit make it necessarily worse than it is right now?
Will create more traffic. You got another set
But
of
again,
wheels.
it doesn't say, we know that they all create more traffic.
That's a good point.
That's not a question. The question is it accessible?
Will this create?
I think this would be excessive, because this property also shares driveway directly next to the neighborhoods as well. So is it gonna be excessive to your question? It is by the very fact that someone else may be directly.
It also says noise. You got 2 more bedrooms, you got 2 more people. You mean they're gonna be mute? I don't think so.
No. Again, it doesn't say that it will not create any additional.
It says
It says that the
excessive.
use will not create excessive traffic congestion in those areas. And I think we gotta be very careful on that. That we gotta be very careful that we stick strictly to what it is. And, you know, if making it back that it's a shared driveway and 2 more bedrooms, people a car or 2, if that changes that, that's a consideration.
But if there's already too much, they're saying, the others are saying, there's excessive noise now. You're adding 2 more bedrooms with itinerant people coming in. I can't imagine that will increase the noise. And there's a
I do think, Margaret, so if we're adding 2 bedrooms to a place its primary use is for rentals, it has to be assumed that that's to rent more.
Well, I think to your point earlier, is there even the grounds to make the application to begin with?
But we don't have
I
that.
think at the end we mentioned that. The new, what we really need is criteria number 5.
Is it in compliance with?
Is this owner occupied, yes or no?
Let's go to criteria 1, that's one we've been talking about, because if that fails, it's moot.
Well, we have to go through the law. So who wants to make a motion?
Well, I say that the ADU will create excessive traffic noise and will be based upon current noise.
And
Testimony.
And I'll,
Testimony.
and I'll second that based on first-hand knowledge.
Well, hang on, let's make sure we dot our i's and cross it. Based on what? Testimony from the abutters stating that the property is being used for rental and is already causing excessive noise traffic.
Okay. I mean, if you want to include that testimony.
Well, it spells it out, we're following the law. Follow
If
the
you go
word.
kiss, keep it simple, Stu.
Okay, go ahead, make it.
It should say, I think.
Yeah.
It should say, or my motion is that the use will create excessive traffic, congestion, noise, not particularly odors, based upon the current noise level and the testimony of those neighbors.
That's clean.
Period. That's clean. It's short.
Okay,
I'll second.
now, I'm a judge, I don't know that there's anything.
It says ADU.
That's my concern. too.
Oh,
Right.
all right.
They go to Superior Court, and I listen to what your motion is. Where does it say, I don't.
Okay, so, I'm gonna take a shot at this.
I think we have to include
alright.
the fact that it's being used primarily as a rental property.
All right, so to what Martha just said, it will create excessive traffic, congestion, noise, or odors based on the testimony, based on the fact that it already is, from the testimony of the abutters and the testimony given that the property is being used as a predominantly rental unit.
Why don't we just say the rental property instead of eight words? The shorter you can keep it, people keep it clear and so I think what you said. Why don't you say the rental, the ADU rental property?
No, because it's rental from what? It's from the-
Yeah, we can't.
Yeah, the property is primarily being used more than 6 months out of the year per the testimony, that's, we can say that. The property is being used more than 6 months out of the year,
Based on this percentage.
public testimony. It gets convoluted into one. But you've got to include the fact that it's being used more than 6 months out of the year. The neighbors have said that because it's used more than 6 months out of the year. Okay, based on public testimony, the property is being used primarily as a rental property and already creates excessive noise. Perfect, right?
Is that your motion?
That's my motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Read it back, please.
Will move that it will create excessive noise, congestion, noise, or odors based on the public testimony that the property is being used primarily as a rental property in order to create excessive noise.
I didn't say odors though. Yeah. Excessive noise and traffic is what we're gonna keep in on, because that's the testimony we heard. There were no testimony about odors, but that's not key. Okay? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 3?
Nay.
3-2. Thank you.
Can I just make one comment?
Why do you say?
Well, just.
We're in deliberation, I made that very clear that, I'm sorry, but you heard me say that to Bill too. Okay, thank you. Okay, number 2, the use, by the way, you had your opportunity.
Oh, I understand that, but you didn't
Thank
read the
you.
letters that the director butter sent it to you. You didn't read any of that.
Well, I asked it to be put into the public record for the meeting minutes.
Yeah, it'll be attached.
That wasn't, none of that what he said was discussed.
Well, that will be certainly part of our,
That'll be in
and that's what it asked for, to be put into the public
No,
record.
no, I just-
Thank you. No, but I'll allow it.
I got you.
The use will not reduce the value of surrounding properties. The addition of a 2-bedroom accessory dwelling unit will add value to the property. There'll be no adverse effects on surrounding properties as this is residential use consistent with the neighborhood. I think it's the same answer.
Well, again, we've had discussion before, absent any testimony, we can't say it.
Well,
That only fails in person, the application's failed.
It already failed, we have to go through this year.
I'd make a motion that we don't have any document or proof that it's gonna lower the value.
that's what we've used professional.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Well, read the motion so I know what I'm voting on.
Try it again. We have no public testimony that it either adds or subtracts from the value of the property.
Yeah.
You already said, right?
Yes,
Right.
yeah. think that's,
Who will second that?
I will.
All in favor? Aye. 5-0. Number 3, we'll get through this. Number 3, there are adequate sewage and waste and water facilities and sufficient off-street parking is provided by the applicant.
They said they had,
Pretty clear.
yeah, they do, because they said they have the, plan as well as the, what's submitted.
The new proposed septic system being installed to handle the dwelling as well as accessory dwelling, there is also adequate.
That's gonna be approved, I believe.
Yes,
So this is pretty simple.
as read.
As read.
As written on number 3, okay? Is everybody okay with that? As written on number 3? I make a motion to accept number 3 as written. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? 5-0. Number 4, the proposed use will preserve the attractiveness of the town. He says the accessory dwelling unit will add to the attractiveness of the town with the condition of a new building meeting the setback and size requirements set forth by the zoning ordinance.
I'm thinking on this one.
I can't hear you.
What?
Yeah, this one I'm not sure about, because that is a super dense area, so we're talking about the attractiveness of the area. This is like shooting.
You know, he's not gonna build some gingerbread house, it's beautiful, we don't know.
I mean, the plans look.
I'm not saying he's doing it, okay? You know, I get my point, it's, we don't have any testimony saying, yes, it's gonna be fun.
Alright, that's fair.
So, can we go with what as written?
I'd second if somebody made a motion.
That's my motion,
Bill just seconded.
and my motion is to go with criteria number 4 as written. Bill, you second it? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The application for a special exception, case number, my meeting is. Case number 0202507 has been denied because it didn't fulfill all of the 4 criteria. The 5th criteria, furthermore, the criteria of owner occupancy was also not per testimony from the abutters. Right.
And the owner.
And the owner, yeah.
Yeah.
And the owner. You want to read that back just to make sure you get it when you're ready? When you're ready, take your time.
Can you say one more time?
So, no. Okay, so what was the context with the accessory dwelling? Okay,
You have to meet all 4 criteria.
and so well, I said
And the issue.
that case number 2025-07 has been denied because it failed to meet all of the criteria. Furthermore, we've heard public testimony and hearsay testimony from the owner that it is not occupied more than, it is not occupied more than 6 months out of the year. Okay? Not owner occupied more than 6 months out of the year.
I would second that it failed on one of the, didn't meet all the criteria and meet the rest of them. What I would say.
Well, the new criteria, which we don't have on our application, is it owner occupied? That's where we ran into a stumbling block in the beginning, because we didn't have the new law. So the question we have to really kind of address this, the white elephant in the room, quite honestly, is this property owner occupied?
Marty made a good, I agree with Marty, if we just make the motion, deal with what we do have currently down here, and then you said, we voted on that, and then you said, in addition, there was a question about 6 months occupancy.
You want to give the, this criteria of owner occupancy is not critical.
Right, and it's not listed as a criteria, so. I mean,
Only because our
Right.
paperwork is
Right,
incorrect.
but I think Marty's absolutely right.
Let's keep it simple. You know, the criteria.
Yeah,
Where does the
absolutely.
judge read that wasn't owner occupied?
You put, well, I think Marty just made the motion that it did not meet all the 4 criteria, so therefore, so let's vote on that. If we vote on that and it goes down, which it has to, then in addition, there is a question about owner occupancy.
Not a question. There was testimony that the owners did not occupy the building. That's
If
it.
we're gonna do that, we should have facts, because I was always told, only believe half of what you hear.
I don't think.
But we can take hearsay, we can, anecdotal evidence is by the neighbors.
Well, also what you told me.
We could just say, in addition, owner occupancy is an issue, is a question. There are questions about owner.
You know what,
occupancy.
that keeps it clean. don't you?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Because you know what,
We're dealing with facts.
Yeah,
right, right, that makes it clean,
exactly.
makes it clean. We don't know for sure
That's a
with
good
everything
point.
regarding that.
So,
Because then the owner can go back, wait a minute, here's proof I live here.
So let's vote on that.
Okay,
that's,
And Marty, your motion was,
Don't meet all the criteria.
and there's a question.
no,
so case number, whatever has been rechecked, or however I wrote it, because it does not meet all the criteria. Simple, okay?
and we vote on
Marty
that.
and second.
Yes.
And then further,
So we need to vote right now.
who made the motion?
Marty, and you
I
seconded it.
second. All in favor? 5-0.
Now, separate from the
Go
motion,
ahead.
in addition,
Yeah.
owner occupancy questions arose from the neighbors. Leave it at that.
Okay. Everybody good with that? Adding that piece in there? Oh, whatever. Okay, let's move on. Thank you. Okay, so at this point, I'd like to close the hearing process and open up a meeting, okay, to consider the rehearing of case number 2025-03. Do I have a motion to close and open into a meeting?
Get so moved.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so we're in a meeting, and we will not be taking testimony from the audience. So I want you to know that I've been going back and forth with this. Okay, this happens to be the case that this is Ridge Rentals. And Matt Surge, who's the town's attorney, has read, and so have I, and I hope all of you have as well, hang on, the argument that BTC lawyers was making. He makes 5 points in his request for a rehearing. And all of those 5 requests are dealt with in the sheet that you see here. Matthew Surge, unless the board feels otherwise, suggests that we not approve the rehearing request. And then he said, if we decide not to, that we read these out loud. The 5, this is basically a rebuttal to Attorney Surge's, I'm sorry, what's his name? Attorney Bolt's 5 points as to why we should be here. And I'd like to make a motion that there is not enough evidence here to suggest that this warrants a new hearing. And for the 5 reasons I've handed out to the board. Sitting on this case, by the way, were the 5 people that were sitting on it. And I believe Amanda just clarified it. Was Marsha on that?
It's one meeting, is what that means. Can't remember if it was this. The deliberative session minutes, so is that?
That's fine, same people.
It was George, Marshall, Rebecca.
That's perfect, that's all. Yeah,
No, not Phil. Oh, wait, it was Phil. Yeah, you're right, yeah. So one, who was it?
and she read my name, so that was not.
But I think you sat on it, right? Yeah, so there was Kevin too. So it'll be Kevin, myself, Marcia, Ross, and Phil. Okay, just for the record. And our meeting minutes should reflect that too, the deliberative session. Well, I guess we won't be approving those. And you know what, that's what we'll do. When we get to that, we can make that change. Okay, that's fine, that's easy. I don't know what everybody else, I'm sweating. Okay, so I just made a motion that we deny it based on the fact that there's no new information. And read this.
Would you just stick to what?
And with this, does she have a thing that indicates based upon the advice of town?
No, it's absorbed. Written ZBA responses, first of all, arguments, and then you reread the 5.
But based on, do we need to indicate the legal counsel that looked at
Yes,
this?
that's right.
I think we should.
No, I don't think so. I think this is a board meeting, and we're looking at the evidence that was presented by Christopher Bolt. And we either suggest that he has enough new evidence to suggest having a rehearing or not. He's saying if we decide not to, then that we should answer them in this particular order and written as such. That's the attorney's advice.
Stick to that.
Let me just, not because of any other reason, but I would like to make a motion that we deny the case because of the fact that there is no new information. And furthermore, I deny the case based on the following, and then go through these five bullets. Based on the following, that's it. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
You don't think we need to do it?
We got 4, and we're waiting for Mike.
No, you're waiting for me too.
Wait.
You're waiting for me too. Because I'm trying to figure out how that goes because.
That's what we're supposed to do on homework.
Yes. What I'm suggesting is that it's asking if we made a mistake. And whereas I think that we did make a mistake on the commission, the special conditions. Again, one board member.
Well, you voted against it. Yeah, right, I would say.
So. I guess I wasn't in.
Forward. Okay, so we're going to read this in. You've got a copy of this? And I would like to, I'll send you an electronic copy of it. And we'll, the wording that I just gave you, plus it's spelled out exactly. And the town has put a lot into this, an awful lot into this. We want to make sure that we dot our i's and cross our t's. Because Christopher Bolt is a great attorney. The applicant's attorney is a real good attorney. And he's looking for minor mistakes, as we all know. Okay. Any other business that may come before the board tonight? We have the approval of the meeting minutes, right, that Amanda has written. Do we have a motion to approve them? Amended.
So,
That's your motion. That's my motion. You second it. All in favor? Aye. We also, what else do we need to approve tonight, Amanda? That's it. That's all we have. Hang on a second. We are sending out, I'm going to be signing tonight, the decision that we made on range rentals. That's something Amanda's going to be giving, I'm going to send that out. That has to go out tomorrow. And there's one other issue that I want to bring up in front of the board. And that's discussions with applicants prior to hearing a case. Generally speaking, it's not good practice. Not saying that you have to recuse yourself on it, because that's an individual decision. But typically, applicants, CBA members, do not visit the applicants at their home to get further clarification on a case that they applied for prior to the hearing. And that's all I'll say, but that's really kind of like really bad in the CBA situation to do that. It's something that most people would say, if you did that, you should recuse yourself. But as we all know, you don't have to recuse yourself. It's just.
Are you saying visiting for the express purpose of getting clarity in the application as opposed to visiting to?
Well, this is where we get the clarification.
Yeah.
In a public hearing.
Yeah.
In a public meeting, so everybody can hear our questions. That's all. It's not a public tongue,
No, it's just.
It's just a reminder to everybody. It's probably best that we don't do that.
but don't we have a rules of
Good
procedure?
ethics.
Hmm?
Good ethics.
Yeah, I think so,
But
yeah.
if you run into an applicant, site visit.
Well, we can certainly do that here. We've done this
Yeah,
before.
we've taken site visits.
Yeah.
I think it's very important that one person, no matter who it is, can have a discussion, a telephone call, anything like that, that deals directly and gives anyone the impression that I one person in speaking for or collecting for the board, I think sets us up for some issues that we don't need.
I don't think our questions that the board might have about what was being discussed and everything. It's just that we do this at our arm's length, and we do it right here, in an open public meeting. That's all. It's,
Because we don't even discuss on the phone, you know, among each other,
We don't.
I mean.
okay, and then do I have a motion to adjourn?
So,
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everybody.
I thought we'd get a new air conditioner. I need to get mine.
I wish you would. You know what's wrong with it? You know what's wrong with it? Not me. You know what's wrong with it?
I don't,
He went to school.
only other
I
picture.
just wanted.
Oh.
Because I don't plan on.
You know, I'm guessing.